start in with the closing statements now. As I indicated earlier, we're going to reverse order. So as soon as I get my other 30-second timer going here, Linda, I'll have you start if you would.
Okay. Well, as I said earlier, I've been on the board for 8 years. I've been a very responsible board member. I've never missed a meeting, and I'm always prepared. I always read my agenda at least twice. So I come to meetings prepared and ready to do the business of the district to the best of my ability. I think we have a really interesting group of people to work with. We've got a terrific superintendent and assistant superintendent of business services. We have really outstanding managers. We have amazing principals, teachers, classified staff. Our district is just so amazing, and our children, the children that live within our district are so very, very lucky to be able to go to school here, because everyone is caring and wants to make sure that everyone, including the school board, everyone wants to make sure that students do the best they can possibly do, and that we can provide the best education for these kids. That's my goal here. I think I've demonstrated that in the past 8 years, and I hope to continue demonstrating that for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Bill, if you would go next, please.
Sure. Well, I would like to underscore what Linda has said, and knowing her from working in the school district, it's true. She brings her heart and soul into everything she does. I would feel exactly the same way. I did so when I was working for the district, and would want to continue to do so in working with the board. I do believe, and how to say this without sounding like pie in the sky, there has got to be an answer, folks, to the problems we have with finances, with resources. But in an hour and a half, 2 hours, all of us in the room, not just we four, all of us, are not going to come up with that answer just by deliberating in one evening. But there is an answer. It's out there. There is always an answer. And I feel as though it can be found the further you get your back pushed to the wall. The Ojai Valley has its back pushed to the wall. And that's the primary reason that I'm here tonight. I'm looking to run because the district needs help, and I believe, with all of the experience I have, I can help provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Kevin, if you would go next.
Sure. First, thank you all for coming tonight. I know that all of us appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys about our respective positions. Other than Thayne, Linda, at 8 years of service, is actually the least served, or the person with the shortest tenure on the board. Our board has been serving for a long time. And I feel, as so-called new blood, I could help energize the board. I think I bring talents and a background that would be helpful for the board. I'm a lawyer who specializes in actually class action work, and I've done a lot of securities work involving complex financial issues and financial frauds. Not that there's anything like that going on here, but obviously I have the ability to look deeply into financial issues. If elected, I'll be the only person on the board with a child in the school. And I think that's important. Only person on the board with a child currently in the school district. I believe that's true, right? I saw shaking heads.
I would have no way of knowing.
Yeah, I think it's the truth. And I think that's important. I think having a customer as one of the board members is helpful. You know, I happen to be very aware now of issues with the 4th grade music program. I don't know if I would know that if I were on the board without a kid in the district, but you know, they've canceled the 4th grade music program. The kids don't get instruments. The 4th grade rite of passage that used to occur no longer occurs. Don't know exactly how the decision was made, or whether there was any debate about it, or how that was allocated, but you know, the real life consequences of what goes on in the board are obvious. But I think new blood and somebody with a kids in the school. It's a necessary component of our board, so please consider me, and if you don't, at least please vote. And please vote for Prop 30.
Thank you. And to finish up the moderated, or the final statements, Thayne, if you would.
Yeah, thank you to Tim and to the Ojai Valley News for this opportunity. Thanks to all of you, my wife Cheryl and daughter Sage who are here. If you elect me, I will be honored to serve with anybody up here. I think these are fantastic people who have a commitment to Ojai, and I'm excited to be here and honored to be in their presence, along with the other board members who I so faithfully serve. I think I bring very unique experience, finance and business background, that I think I've been able to contribute to the benefit of the district well. I've been one of the only people, I think, in the Valley to go and personally lobby our legislators for the things that we need here. I don't always agree with everybody on the board, but I think we're always agreeable. And I think that's been fantastic. What I'd like to, there's so many things I could say, but let me just finish by saying that my children have been throughout the schools. I am familiar with the elementary music program, with the junior high, with the high school, with the teachers. I know administrators and teachers from all of the schools and consider them friends, and really excited to be part of this institution. Going back to my story about my hikes above the valley, when you're looking down, you see that one of the most obvious crops is citrus. But I think the most important thing we produce are the children and the future. And you'll notice on my signs there's an orange. And I think that's symbolic of both of those things, of the future and the crop that we produce. And I just want you to remember, aren't you glad you voted for Thayne?
Thank you to our four candidates. I appreciate very much you giving the community the opportunity to hear what you have to say. Thank you to the Ojai Unified School District for allowing us to use the facility. And again, thank you to all of you. We still have a few minutes left of our allotted time here, so if there are questions from the audience, the candidates have agreed to take them. Yes, ma'am.
I'm reading this from someone who had to leave, and it's to everybody. What have you observed at the school board meetings that does work, and what would you like to see changed?
Kevin, would you like to start?
Well, I'm no great expert on board meetings because I conceded I've only been to two. But frankly, you probably tell I do have a taste for Q&A and robust discussion, and it certainly appears that our board gets along very well. That's something that probably is a good thing. I do, I'd like to make sure that we're also asking the hard questions, and if we have to ask questions that somebody doesn't agree with or that imply something about somebody else's view, I think it's an important enough mission we have that we should be able to do that.
Generally speaking, creativity doesn't do terribly well in a sour environment, and it's wonderful to know that the folks on the board get along with one another, that they're agreeable with one another. But by the same token, there's an awful lot of great art out there that came from people who suffered in dreadful circumstances. One doesn't have an absolute answer for this. There are creative solutions, folks. It's our responsibility to find them.
Thank you.
Well, having been on the board for the 8 years that I have, it's really great to see how well everybody meshes. We actually don't agree on many things. And we have lengthy discussions. We're all very analytical. We chew on words, and we go back and forth on, about decisions. Hank can tell you that the discussions sometimes go on for hours because we want to make sure that every single aspect of every decision is examined. And I think that's fantastic because I think that's what a board should do. You can't make, these are, the decisions we're making are too important to make quickly.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that we only hear about a lot of these things during election season. I think it would be great if members of the community came and commented and let us know about their concerns, if they have concerns that we're not already addressing, because I think that's really important on an ongoing basis. Rather than just holding them in for an election, to come out and share with the board on a regular basis. It's a sacrifice. All of us here tonight are sacrificing something else really important. There are things I would rather be doing, but there's really nothing I would rather do than serve the students, and that's why I'm here. So I think the answer is come out, share your comments. That's what I would change.
Thank you, and I'll do my best to get an update on the score of the game for you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
We want to know who won the other.
Yes, sir.
My parents were both teachers. My wife and I are retired teachers. Our two daughters are teachers. I've been watching the school finance and politics in two different states, my home state plus California, all my life. It seems to me that this school district and all school districts are currently at the mercy of Sacramento. It seems to me the legislators of both parties are not doing their jobs. My heart goes out to all of you on the board and running for the board. I frankly don't see things changing unless somehow legislators' point of view in Sacramento changes. I'm wondering if you see any effective forces that might cause legislators to be more conciliatory between one another when it comes to school financing.
Bill, would you like to start that? No. Okay, Linda.
Well, I agree that legislature's not taking responsibility for and not doing their job properly. That's why we have all these propositions on the ballot. The California State School Board Association is an agency that promotes all aspects of schools, and I think that they've been working to try to get the legislature to understand that Proposition 98 needs to be fully funded, which it isn't. And other than, I really think that what needs to be done is the parents need to write to their lawmakers and just say, if every parent wrote a letter, if there was if every school, every legislator got a giant bag of mail or several bags of mail with letters saying, what are you guys doing? Let's fund the schools properly so that we can educate the people of tomorrow, then maybe something would happen.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Going to your comment on not working together, I know the assemblyman who represents our district was not allowed, not invited to the budget meetings. It's really a bad situation, and I think we need to let our voices be heard. We need to talk to our legislators. We need to take every opportunity, and we need to vote. We've got an election coming up. I don't know if you've heard, in a couple of weeks, and I hope that we, make sure that we're trying to vote for people who we think will change that situation in Sacramento. And I think, certainly by letting our other public officials know and getting them motivated to go and lobby as well, that concerted effort is what we have. We live in a democracy. We need to use that power of the people to take control back from those who think that they can do whatever they want to do regardless of what we need.
Okay.
Well, I think California is in a very particular situation because of Prop 13, and I think it's important for people to be educated about the difficulties that the California schools have in raising revenue just as a result of Prop 13. And it's funny because I think Californians tend to think of themselves as sort of bigger and better just by default, and the reality is that California spends, I think, Thayne, you have these statistics, I'm not familiar with them. My overall understanding is that is that the general fund in California has been diminishing over the past few years. But at any rate, you know, we just, even as a percentage of the general fund, even as a percentage of the overall budget of California, we don't spend that much money on California schools. These are facts. So, you know, California is sort of, we think that we're on the cutting edge and we want the best and we expect to be number one, and it hasn't been that way in school. And it's a shame, and I think a lot of it has to do with people just not really understanding what's going on. So, you know, like so many things, I think education, about education, would help.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
This was my 6th grade classroom that we're sitting in. I know things have changed, and I'm going to bounce around just a smidge, but in those days, 28 to 30 kids in the classroom. Teacher taught us music every day, art, and our PE teacher. We didn't have a superintendent. We had principals that would get together and discuss. I hope I'm correct on that. It was a long time ago. But anyway, I know trying to be stewards of money is a very difficult thing. I can understand that. It's hard even as a homemaker to try and be stewards of trying to get money to go all these places it's supposed to go. What is the actual budget for the state of California that is allocated for education? And education is preschool, grammar, middle, high school, community college, universities. So we're sitting here in my little classroom without thinking of all the money that goes vastly to educators, administrators, and the trickle down to the kids. Where does that go? So I mean, I'm throwing a lot of things out there, but where did it change? And I understand there's requirements and guidelines, and I know so much of what the teachers have to do is spend time every day accounting to somebody or something for the guidelines. You know, and we don't want to not teach that, and we have to teach that, but the math and science programs are gone pretty much. I don't know. I don't know, where did it all go wrong? From me sitting here with Mrs. Rowden up there, you know, and Mr. Butler in the next room, where did it go wrong? Where are the guidelines and where does the money go? That's my big question, because I see that money, 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 but where does it trickle down to the kids?
Anyone care to tackle that?
I can speak a little bit. I mean, I'm not, I can say we do still have math, we still have science, just so you know, which is an important part of the curriculum. In fact, the Ojai Education Foundation funded our new math program a year and a half ago.
It was the
Previous year, yeah. And so,
I'm talking past.
yes. Well, I mean, I went to school I graduated from high school in 1962. I went to San Diego State as a freshman. It was $27.50 a semester to go to college in 1962. A lot of things have changed because all of the additional funds that schools receive, like the Title I funds and everything, all have to be accounted for. So we have accountants, and then there's somebody in the education office at the state or in the federal education office that has to add all that stuff up. Because, you know, the bureaucracy has expanded exponentially.
There's the key word.
There's a key word, right?
Yep.
I don't know if we can do anything about that, but we also have, like Kevin mentioned, Prop 13. When I went to college, it was pre-Prop 13. And so homeowners and businesses paid equal amount of taxes. Corporations, everybody paid about the same amount of money. Now, because of Prop 13, the majority of the funding for schools, the property taxes, comes from homeowners' pockets because anything that was not sold after 1977 is at its old property tax value. So some huge factory in Los Angeles somewhere is paying its pre-1977 tax rate. Homeowners who have sold their homes several times are paying higher and higher tax rates.
So you're going to try and do away with Prop 13?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we have to look at it, and we have to get our legislators to look at it and say, what is fair here? What is fair here?
For Prop 13. We were newlyweds when we bought our house in 1979. We couldn't afford to live here if we didn't have it.
I'm not saying
So
that.
that's-
I'm not saying that homeowners should ever have to pay a higher percentage.
Okay.
Never.
2 more questions. I'd like to try and squeeze them in before the good folks of the district kick us out here. And if you would like to, go ahead.
I think I've been at different board meetings than the ones I've heard about. Kevin, this question is for you. A few years ago, I was at some of the first board meetings that Steve Fields was at, and I felt that the board that was there really refused to listen to him. They had worked together, and they knew the answers, and they weren't going to listen to his questions. So if you were elected, I mean, any more than, you know, a president who serves with an opposing party, how do you feel you can get this board to maybe at least listen?
First, I'm really loud. No, I don't anticipate not being listened to. I mean, I think I have to say I did sense I got uncomfortable at one point because I felt like there was almost a sense that I was personally attacking somebody. Certainly my position on school board benefits should not be perceived as a personal attack on anybody. It's real money. That's a teacher, $66,000. So hopefully that's understood, and I think it is understood. I think at the end of the day, I think people recognize that, you know, if they have a legitimate difference of opinion, that they can air them, and certainly that's where I come from. I mean, as a lover of education, I have to say, education's about, you know, it's funny. My son Jem, small little story here, but we have friends over. If Claude's still here, he was the friend. And a friend of mine and I, we got in kind of a heated discussion, and then Jem looked at me with this almost tears in his eyes, and I said, "What's wrong?" We went off to the side. He said, "You guys are really like fighting. I'm really uncomfortable." And I said, "Jem, that's awesome. We're throwing stuff around here, you know." And I expect that's how it would be. That's how I will behave as long as I'm on the board.
It was directed, Kevin, anyone else care to?
I'm just saying Steve was a very respected member of the board when he was here. He and I were elected at the same time, so he offered and gave a lot to the board.
I would, just a quick comment on that and the previous one. Ideas are great. We need to talk about them, and we need to share, and we need to come to the conclusion that's best for the Valley. I really liked the comment that it's all about the teachers. I think it really is the teachers in the classrooms. We need to focus on that. I was at a meeting this last year with the State Secretary of Education. He was talking to a large group of educators about the budget cuts, and the question came up, so what are we supposed to do? And do you know what his answer was? I don't know. That's the kind of leadership we're getting from the state. And I think at the local level, we need to provide a better level of leadership than that.
And I think years ago, Topa, when I was really involved there, they said the state budget, 60% of it was for education. That's a big, 62%. A lot of money.
And I've been outed by Bill, so just in the spirit of full disclosure, I am Bill's wife, but I am also an educator. And I sat here tonight and was really amazed that I heard very little, virtually nothing, about student achievement and what the board does relative to working with the leadership of the district in order to look at student achievement. As you all know, as principals and the teachers and parents, when the API scores come out, although only one measure, they are a strong measure. And I was surprised that our high school has not reached the 800 benchmark, and I was astounded at the achievement gap between our Hispanic students and other subgroups and other groups and our white students in Ojai. That should not be. I'm wondering what the board members, current board members, or future board members will be doing to work with the leadership of the district to not only improve student achievement with whatever funds we are finally going to have, and how you're going to actually use what funds we have as you look towards student achievement and go through the transition to the Common Core, which is an incredible leap and needs to be addressed now so that our district is ready for the assessments that are coming in 2014.
These are the
And
current
Bill will get
API
a lot of ideas on how to cut the budget. I promise you, he'll come with a laundry list.
These are the latest API scores. We had a long discussion at the last board meeting about a week ago, going over this in some detail at every school level. And I, along with other board members, asked questions, made suggestions. The administrators from each school are going back and creating a plan for the year
We all do that.
on how they're going to address that. And I would like to repeat what I said earlier tonight, that the teachers, although their days have been cut, their salaries have been cut, they have worked extraordinarily well to increase API scores. And so they're not at the, we don't have time to go into this, but a scale was set up for the
Yes.
students to achieve at
100% by 2014, we all know that.
exactly. So the students would know everything in the world by 2014,
Exactly.
and they're not quite there yet.
Most of them are different kids.
And they're different kids. But we're getting closer all the time, and it's an ongoing challenge that we all face. I appreciate it. It is important.
Anybody else like to answer?
Sure. I'll listen to you endlessly for years, and I'll follow your advice.
Yeah, I mean, I think, needless to say, where the rubber hits the road is ultimately what education's about. We talked about all this infrastructure, all this stuff, these schools, these buses, these everything, and it's all about ultimately some brain understanding something that they didn't before. I mean, all I can say is I'll promise to be as engaged as possible on the subject. I'm, again, with kids in the district, I feel like I'm at ground zero. My general perception is that, you mentioned a gap between the Hispanic kids and the others. These are issues that we obviously have to continue to tackle and be as creative as possible. Needless to say, I don't think a board member's job is to be, replace a teacher or to supplant that world, but I will be as supportive as possible. I was just reading a few weeks ago about how the academies started, like the Health Sciences Academy over at Nordhoff. They got a little seed money. It was like $3,000, $5,000, and they got some great grants, $100,000 I think the first year, $50,000 the second year. So there's obviously, when teachers are out there being creative, some great things can happen, and I would obviously do my best to support that. It's a platitude, but obvious.
I would, as Thayne was saying, we looked at the scores in the last board meeting. Each principal will go back to school, and with their leadership team at the school, and with parent input, will create a single school plan, which will address everything that needs to be done and what can be done within the financial abilities of the district. We are not allowed to micromanage. We can suggest, we can visit schools, which we do. We can talk to the principals, talk to the teachers, which we do, and get help, beg the Ojai Education Foundation to help us with funding math programs and things like that. So to me, not having summer school for elementary children is a big problem. I see that as one of the reasons why children, as they get further and further along, they start to fall more and more behind, because that's such an important transition for them to, particularly the kids that are struggling. I wish, in like that perfect world, that money would drop from the sky so we could fund everything that we need. And people say, well, money isn't everything, but I think in this case, it would be a big help. And I thank you for the question. I think that's a really important topic of discussion.
This could be a quick one. What would be more important, a smaller school class size or summer school? Would one be more beneficial than the other?
Smaller class size.
I like his answer.
I personally feel summer school, because the summer school is the children that are usually the children that need that additional help. And in we have a lot of parent volunteers that are fantastic that help out in classes. And I really, really feel that kids who are struggling need summer school. They need a continuous strand of teaching to hold them up. Yeah.
Smaller classes during the summer.
Thank you folks so much. I appreciate it very much.